And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Katie Greifeld, taking you through to that closing bell with a global simulcast. Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec join us here on this Monday afternoon. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, television, radio, our partnership with YouTube on what's setting up to be, yet again, Carol Massar, another record-setting day for U.S. equities.
Kind of amazing because it just has felt a little bit of a blah day for the most part. I keep thinking about all that's coming at investors, the Fed decision, other central banks, global central banks having decisions this week. And then you have, 5 of the Mag 7 reporting. But you're right, eking out another record. So there you have it.
Yeah, notable that I think we're still seeing oil higher and equities are kind of shrugging that off, Katie. Brent up another 2.6% to $108 a barrel. WTI, $96 a barrel, up another 2% today.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like equity bulls have learned to live with these higher oil levels that we're seeing, much more content to sort of focus on the fundamentals of what's going on in corporate America, what's going on with the Magnificent Seven. I will say it's going to be interesting to hear from the Federal Reserve. There's a lot of palace intrigue right now when it comes to whether or not Jerome Powell, will he stay, will he go? But then you remember, of course, that we've seen a big bond market sell-off since the start of March that has not reversed.
Absolutely. And of course, that sell-off continues today. And the big question right now is how much is the Fed and all those other central bankers going to have to start having meaningful discussions about that inflation shock because of the war in Iran. Maybe it's too early for some to actually make a change in policy, but that debate certainly has to be had. As for right now, there is no debate. The S&P 500, a modest gain on the day, up about 9 points as we wait for these numbers to settle. But one way or another, up about 0.1% at 71.71 and change. That is going to be a record high. The Nasdaq Composite also closing out the day at a record high, up about 0.2% on the day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average sitting this one out, down about 0.1%. And the Russell 2000, which had actually spent the majority of the session in the red, now just poking into the green, up only 1 point on the day, but hey, a gain is a gain, Carol Massar.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Well said, well said. Back to the S&P 500 I go. 227 names, Katie, in that index, higher for the Monday session, 274 to the downside, 2 unchanged.
Pretty narrow rally when you take a look at the sector level on the S&P 500. Just 3 sectors finishing in the green, but as you can see, they're the important ones. Big tech rallying by about 0.5%. Communication services higher by 0.9%. Financials, too, having a good day. When you take a look at the downside, the biggest loser was consumer staples as a sector, down about 1.2%. Real estate, consumer discretionary, and healthcare, some of your biggest losers as well, Carol.
All right, let's go to the individual gainers, if I may. And I want to go to SanDisk and Micron because SanDisk, #1 gainer in both the S&P and the Nasdaq 100. And then you had Micron, #2 gainer in the Nasdaq 100, #3 in the S&P 500. These were just some outperformance there. You can see SanDisk up about 8%, 5.6% higher on Micron. Both of those names are being started with buy ratings over at Melius Research, which sees strong long-term tailwinds for the companies due to AI. The firm has a 2-year price target of $1,350 for SanDisk. That stock closing at $1,070. And then for Micron, he has a target of $700. That stock closing today at $524 and change. So certainly some room to run. His take, here's what he writes. Ben writes this. He says, it is time to acknowledge memory is core to our AI coverage, fitting well with AI semis, AI hardware, and hyperscalers. So some outperformance there. This one I did for Tim and Romaine, although they don't really need it yet. But let's take a look.
What is this?
Maine is the ticker.
You're funny.
Stock was up as much as 50% intraday, finishing up about 47%.
No.
Don't take it so personally.
I didn't know she was going to do this. I love this.
Now a $3.4 billion market cap drug developer.
Every day, I just like to point out, every man in America, when you're taking a shower, you get out, you look in the mirror, tilt your head down just a little bit, and you say, okay, it's still there. It's still there.
Well, and for those not, this might be some good news. This company has an experimental oral therapy for male pattern hair loss. And apparently it met all the primary and key secondary endpoints. So some good news for all of you men out there.
When can we get that sped through the regulatory process. Just,
You got a great head there.
for now.
Real quickly, let's go over to Remax. Ticker RMAX. Finley, thank you, because I sent you the wrong ticker earlier. But you can see this went up about 24%. Real brokerage buying Remax Holdings in a deal valued at $13.80 a share. Latest example of consolidation in the U.S. real estate brokerage company. Deal will create a brokerage with 180,000 real estate agents, including more than 100,000 in the United States and Canada, according to a statement they put out. It will combine Upstart Real, founded back in 2014 as a tech-powered brokerage with one of the real estate brokerage industry's traditional stalwarts. And you've seen some stuff going on in this industry.
Tech-powered.
So, yeah,
Is there anything that's not tech-powered these days?
You know, we're all just tech-powered,
Okay.
in case you didn't know.
Well, speaking of tech, a good segue to get to some of my decliners. I want to start with shares of Apple, which, yes, reports earnings after the bell on Thursday. We will have that instant insight and analysis and those numbers, of course, here in the closing bell. Shares today fell by 1.3%. This on a day when TF International Securities Analyst Ming-Chi Kuo suggested that Qualcomm is working with OpenAI on a smartphone. The report says mass production is expected in 2028, although specifications and suppliers are expected to be finalized by late 2026 or the first quarter of 2027, according to the analyst. Also watching shares of Walt Disney. At one point in the day, they were up as much as 1.2%. They fell as much as 0.5% today. They closed down 0.2%. This after President Trump called on ABC. You can see that happened just before the 2 o'clock hour there when shares fell. To fire late-night host Jimmy Kimmel after what he called a, quote, despicable call to violence on an April 23rd broadcast. Kimmel's comments have dragged Disney back into the culture wars that it sought to avoid, with the company shares slipping immediately after the president's remarks. We have seen this movie before, and it was less than a year ago, but Disney shares fell by 0.2%. And finally, pizza. Domino's Pizza.
Num num.
Shares fell today by 8.8%. They were pretty much there throughout the day today, falling to the lowest in close to 3 years. The company revised its full-year outlook. It reported first quarter comp sales miss. Domino's said it's, quote, committed to deliver 3% same-store sales in the U.S. in 2026, supported by the launch of new menu items, and the company approved a $1 billion share buyback program. Shares down 8.8% today.
All right, let's check in on yields. The sell-off that we've seen in benchmark treasuries, that continued today after a bit of a pause on Friday. That pushed yields higher pretty much across the curve. You take a look at your 10-year yield right now, 4.3325 and change. They're up about 3 basis points. Your 2-year yield, most sensitive to any sort of change in Fed policy, at 3.795.
All right, everybody. As if the skies in the New York Metro weren't crowded enough, get ready for it to become even more crowded. Joby Aviation, I think you guys, I know we've talked to them a lot, planning to fly electric air taxis between JFK International Airport and Manhattan to show off its quieter, zero-emission aircraft. It's all part of a new federal program to accelerate the integration of air taxis into U.S. airspace. Tim, with Joby aiming to start passenger flights in New York, Texas, and Florida as soon as the second half of this year.
That's coming up.
Are you ready?
I am ready to see them.
Cool.
I don't know if I'd get in one yet. They are designed, though, to be safer and quieter than helicopters. Apparently, the sound is 100 times quieter and more of a whoosh that we're told blends into the background. So
Whoosh.
a whoosh.
More
yeah.
of a broadband noise, I think it was described as. I'm not sure if
A broadband from like AOL years ago?
I didn't quite catch the reference that was being put down, but I do like the sound of being quieter than a helicopter.
Yeah.
Because, boy, I live in Hoboken, as I feel like we've discussed, and it gets noisy. I don't know if you get that over in Jersey City, Carol, but it's a busy place, those skies.
You hear it sometimes really early in the morning.
Sometimes you look up and you see it's Romaine on his way to the office.
Yeah, right, Romaine.
He doesn't even stop and pick you up, Katie. So
No.
Yeah, this is why you don't buy a house on the flight path. So what do you guys?
Everywhere is the flight path here, friend.
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
not to brag, but it's pretty quiet in my neighborhood.
you know, it's quiet on the PATH train, too, especially as you get under the river. But in any case, it'll be interesting to see Joby Aviation, how these air taxis works. But
Can we come back to the ground, Katie?
yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys saw, but the London Marathon, an amazing event. You had 3 men break 2 hours for the marathon, which was amazing.
That's the first time that's happened, right? In like a competitive race?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And to have two men go under in the same race is amazing. But then you consider they were wearing the same type of shoe, which certainly was a factor.
I love this. The Adizero Adios Pro Evo 3. And of course, these all these companies, Adidas, Nike, Puma, they all want the bragging rights. They want to have their guy or person at the victory stand. And of course, wanted to break the world record. Look at this, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's iconic there.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Now, do you wear these, Katie? Yeah, because you're a runner.
I don't, but apparently they debuted last week, and
last week.
Yeah, I think they're a cool $500. Which
What?
I mean, if you
I
can
missed that
shave,
nugget. Okay.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of runners that are doing the calculus there. That $500 to shave however many minutes off my marathon time. A lot of them would take that price hit.
Is that how much like elite running shoes cost? I'm out of the loop here.
It's pretty steep.
As somebody who all
What's
my
the
sneakers I
Joby?
buy on sale.
What's
I'm
the
a little-
Joby flight cost?
I don't know.
I don't know. Hopefully.
Can that do it? Can that do the London Marathon?
I mean, if you have these shoes, you can
Yeah.
run so fast you don't need to take
Exactly.
a helicopter or
Just
an air
run
taxi.
there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. 3.42
$500.
ounces. That sounds
Wow.
kind of light.
And they're not even Gucci.
Yeah.